Hi, welcome to Leadership Lens.
We're here today with Dr. Kathleen Dodaro and Dr. Jennifer Landrum talking about their new project, Leadership Through a New Lens. Dr. Dodaro, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Well, I have extensive experience working in oil and gas, healthcare, sales and marketing, manufacturing, and I've gathered a lot of information throughout the years about leadership. As a result, I've been a public speaker in various industries and so forth. And the other thing that I've done that I realized that made this project very important was the classroom. I've been at Regis for over 2 decades teaching. And what I've learned in Anderson College of Computing and Business at Regis University is that leadership is important.
Great. And so what is it that you aim to do?
What we aim to do is provide new leaders the direction that they need to engage this new workforce. Yeah. It's extremely important for them to understand that their people are their greatest asset, and things have changed. Leadership has changed, and we need to do it differently. And there are various pillars that we need to look at, and we need to be better at.
Wonderful, wonderful. So who and what inspired you to do this project?
Talking to students that were afraid to go into the workforce, not knowing what to expect, not knowing if they would be valued by their leaders, if they would be mentored, what type of leadership should they be looking for when they got a job? Should they accept a certain position when they had some fears that perhaps they wouldn't get along with their leader?
And will your students learn ways to be vicarious leaders as well through this project?
Absolutely. We're going to bring this information to them in the classroom. As senior lecturer, I want to make this something that's of extreme value to the students. It's very important for them to understand what to expect. And if we can bring the two together, the students and the leaders and the industry, we're gonna make a difference here.
Hi, Dr. Landrum. Nice to meet with you today. So we heard just a little bit from Dr. Dodaro, and now I'd love to hear from you. Dr. Jennifer Landrum is here with us, and I want her to just, if you would, Dr. Landrum, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, thank you. Along with Dr. Dodaro, I teach at Regis University in the Anderson School of Business and Computing. I am faculty in the Management and Leadership Department. My background, I specialize in organizational change and adult education. I have over 20 years of experience in nonprofits, hospitality, and have really enjoyed my time seeing things change as we're now in this 4th industrial revolution, just feeling so lucky to be kind of at this point and to witness the growth in organizations and then be able to bring that back to the students.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Dodaro talked a little bit about what inspired you guys to do this, students, and bring information to them about new leadership. Can you talk a little bit about the method and what you're doing in the project?
Sure. So what we're doing is kind of a qualitative method where we have, through our research and years of experience teaching and actually in industry, we have identified some key themes in leadership and strategic management that we wanted to kind of delve into with current leaders to see, is this still relevant? Are folks still really are these still the main themes that we need to be talking about, and how are they changing? Today, we're interviewing Valerie Westmark, a seasoned leader with RE/MAX. She gave us a peek into the lens of positive leadership. So in your experience, what defines a successful leader in today's business environment?
When I think of true leadership, I am reminded of one of my favorite books when it comes to leadership and management is Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership. And in that book, he gives an example of a man who is trying to herd cows. And the story results in the lesson that bosses push and leaders pull. So I always think of that of pulling your team alongside with you to build them up is the best way to do, to lead. And one of the other things too is I'm very much an agent. So since I still am a producing agent, I am in the trenches with them and in the field. So I share and sympathize with what they're going through and, how they're reacting to the market or struggles that they have. And I think that being a producing agent still and not quite giving that up and turning solely over into management has really helped me be a better leader and a better manager to them.
Fantastic. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about managing conflict and communication. How does your organization handle conflict among team members, or how do you handle conflict among team members or stakeholders?
So I have to follow the guidelines that RE/MAX Alliance, the company, has set up for us. And so each of our agents, they are independent contractors, and they need to sign an independent contractor agreement when they start working with us. So there is a paragraph in there that states that if we have a conflict among the agents, that they agree to go to mediation first. So they would be mediating with other managing brokers or with broker owners of the company to handle that conflict. So anytime when I have something really serious going on, I have to get upper management involved and to remind them that this is what we do. We get it all out on the table first and we mediate and work through it.
That's great. So kind of an existing process to really support. That's helpful. Mm-hmm. Can you share an example of how effective communication helped resolve a challenging situation?
Yes. So agents take what is called floor at the office, so they can take an incoming call of a lead or a walk-in that comes in. We had 2 agents that happened to be on my team that were in the office at the same time. One of them was on floor, one of them was not. A phone call came in, and the front desk, she was new. This was her first week on the job, and she confused the 2. And she gave the lead to the wrong agent. That happens. It was a mistake, honest mistake, but it was getting both of those agents on the same page right away, not letting it fester. Let's talk about it. This was not her fault. Let's figure it out. What makes it fair and equitable for everybody. So I think the main thing I try to do in resolving conflict is not let it go past the next day, right? To really get in front of it right away. I'm not big on a text or an email when it comes to these kind of things. I like it to be in person and just, let's just nip it in the bud right now. How can we move forward?
And I bet your team really appreciates that sense of urgency around feedback and not letting them wonder too about, how is this going to be resolved, thinking worst case scenarios.
Exactly, and especially, because the agents, they're a business and they're running a business for themselves, and it's about money and money out of their pocket. They're all, self-employed for themselves. They don't get a paycheck. This is how they earn their living, and so you have to be really sensitive to that to make sure that it's fair and they are getting what's due to them. But then, not punishing the staff member for making an honest mistake either. It's just keeping everybody in a good flow and a positive atmosphere.
So change management and organizational development are on everyone's minds right now, especially as we kind of move through this 4th industrial revolution. How do you motivate and prepare your team for change initiatives?
So I usually, when I have some change going on, we do monthly sales meetings that I run, and most of the agents are there. Most anywhere from 60 to 70 agents attend the meetings, and that might be the first announcement I make of some sort of change coming on. And then if somebody's not there, or maybe they weren't quite paying attention to what the change was, I follow up, and I find it's really effective to do video emails. So I do a lot of that. I think that people will watch your email and what you're trying to say more often than read it. And I think that's just kind of how we've become too. We watch video, we've become more of a sight, thing right now instead of reading. So I do that, and I try to stay really positive, because I find that any leader, any manager, you are setting the tone. And if I come in there and I'm having a bad day, which happens, I have to be really careful, because people are watching my moods, what I'm saying, what I'm doing. If I just go in my office and shut the door or something like that, that's not the right thing to do. It's staying positive, and with that change, just making them feel comfortable that this is positive. We're going to get through this. Staying calm, and setting the expectation of what the change is going to be.
Wow, I love that innovative idea of using video for your emails.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. What are the biggest challenges you face when trying to lead change, and how have you overcome them, or how do you?
So I think naturally people don't like change at all. It's just kind of against our nature. We just like to stay in the same routine that we have. So it's negative attitudes towards that. And then, everybody maybe has those personalities in their organization where they will put on a real negative vibe. And maybe it's digging deep to, why are you feeling so negative about this? What is it about this that I can help you through to realize that this change is for the better, not just better for the company or maybe for me or the office, but for you, and how it would impact you, too, I think is really important. The other thing that I think that is important to keep in mind is, on any company or on any level, you have to realize that you have so many different generations of people working in your office. I mean, I have one of my agents is 81, so he's in that generation. And then I have other staff members that are just coming out of high school and maybe doing a summer internship that are 18, 19 years old. So it's talking about how to bridge that gap with communication and bringing any kind of change so that everybody's in the same flow. We're all on the same path moving forward. So that's something I really try to keep in mind too.
Wow. It's really clear that you are a leader who puts a lot of intention into all of your practices, which is really commendable.
Thank you.
When we talk about then building a vision for the future, how do you formulate and communicate long-term vision for your organization or your team?
So the business of real estate is really long-term, naturally. We might not see results that another company might see in the next quarter. So we try to measure yearly things. So if I'm trying to build up the team and look at a vision that we're doing, I might pull the past as an example and say, hey, remember the beginning of 2024 in this quarter, this is where we ended up with sales. This is where our stats were. If you recall, we implemented some changes here, and then look at how we benefited, how we grew. And typically that's what we're doing. I'm very blessed. I work for a great company, great vision, the higher owners and leadership, and just trying to take that down to another level and show them that this growth, if you stay with me in this change, we are going to see the results. And so it's kind of measured yearly for us.
What role does innovation play in your strategic planning?
So along the same lines, it takes time to really go through a cycle, through a market, to have agency that we are improving, that we are on the right path. Or it could have been maybe we had a staff member that we needed a change or something like that, and they saw that as soon as maybe that was let go of, then a new person was brought in that brought more energy and more ideas, and they kind of see, well, that cycle really improved too. Because the staff in the office itself really does impact how much business the agents do, just from answering the phone, the first impressions, all of that. So getting the right people on the bus, as they talk about, impacts everybody. And ultimately, that's what the agents care about. They want to see their business grow too. They're little businesses inside of our organization. So putting that together is really important.
In your view, how can society as a whole improve its ability to manage conflict and communicate effectively?
So I think I told you that I've been in this industry for almost 35 years now, but I've only been managing for full-time for about 3 years. And so in the beginning, I was really struggling with maybe what other managers had done before me to bring people together. So I found a book that I love, and it's called A New Kind of Diversity. It's written by Tim Elmore, and I've read it, and I also listen to it a lot in the car. And I think it works well with anybody that's in management in any field, because it really talks about the difference in those generations and how people work. And so sometimes I feel like I'm right in the middle with my generation, and I've got some older people ahead of me, and then I have the younger people too. And I think it's understanding their personalities. Maybe a lot of the older people might think, oh, that generation is lazy, they don't want to do this. And that it's really, that could be further from the truth. I think it's understanding this is how they work, this is how they talk, this is how they connect with the older generation, this is what they might need to perform at their best. And then at the same time, it could be working with those younger people to say, hey, we need to look at the personalities of maybe somebody that's not as techie as you or advanced in technology and just different ways, applications, and bringing them together. So I think that as a society, it's really important for people to realize you have those generation gaps. And when you really sit down and think about it, I mean, how amazing it's been. The older generations, their lives were pretty much the same from generation to generation. And then I have older children and I have younger children, and I look at them growing up, and my younger child, his life is going so much faster than theirs was in just a short amount of time. So just recognizing those differences, I think it helps bring people together. And it's an excellent book. I highly recommend it.
Well, Kathleen, it was so great to get Valerie Westmark in to have a conversation with us. She's such a seasoned veteran when it comes to leadership. She confirmed several important points regarding leadership that you and I had talked about. One that really struck me was resolving conflict immediately, so not waiting, making sure to have a sense of urgency around conflict. I thought that was really wise.
And something else she said that everybody needs to remember? A leader sets the tone. They need to stay positive. When they come in, their employees will pick up the feelings from their attitude and the way that they set the tone in the office. It's really important.
Absolutely. And positive leadership is something that we are hearing a lot about right now. Something else I think about is the fact that, she mentioned most people do not like change, and I think she really hit the nail on the head there. She talked about the importance of engaging her staff in change initiatives and making sure that they feel heard, which is, including stakeholders, extremely important.
And if you start a change initiative and it takes too long, you lose the momentum. So I agree. You need to make sure that everyone's on board and everyone's ready to help and make it happen. The other thing that she said is that interviewing, ask deep questions. Make sure you get the right person on the bus. And that's kind of a way that you can use your human resource department to help you develop those questions in advance, making sure that they fit the job, they fit, your culture of your organization, and that you do get the right person on the bus. And remember, you need to get them in the right seat too.
100%. So great to have so many things that we talk about in our courses kind of affirmed through this seasoned leader's voice. Hi, and welcome back to The Leadership Lens.
Today, we interviewed Mia Clark. She gave us a peek into the lens of women in leadership roles and helped us to recognize the generational differences in the workplace. Yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming today to share some information with us about the future of leadership. Tell me a little bit about you and what you're looking for as a new graduate in the working world.
Yeah, so just graduating from Regis University with my degree in finance and economics, I learned a lot about leadership during my experience at Regis, and now I have found that leadership is through educating, and specifically educating others around you and leaving people around you better than they were before they met you. So that's kind of what I'm doing with my career in financial advising at Northwestern Mutual, is just taking people as clients, educating them, and helping them better their lives for themselves and their families.
Making things better for everyone is important, isn't it? Yeah. Based on your experiences in school and the internships in your work, what approaches do you think are most effective for encouraging innovation among people, among students, among team members? How do we go about that? What do we do?
I think it's all about who you surround yourself with. So specifically in my field in finance, there aren't a lot of women. And so I feel like as a woman, I can bring a very unique perspective to any room that I'm in, but it's just surrounding yourself with people that are different from you. If you have a bunch of people in a room that all think the same, you're not going to be able to invoke change. You're not going to be able to come up with solutions, all of those things. And so I encourage people, get out of your comfort zone, meet new people that you wouldn't typically meet in either your line of work or your neighborhood, and pick their brain about certain ideas.
Very important to get out of your comfort zone, isn't it? Mm-hmm. In your graduate learning and your internships, how would you identify and develop leadership qualities in fellow students or other leaders? What do you see? What qualities do you find?
I have learned a lot of leadership qualities through my managing director, Doug Jones. He is the first person in the office every day, the last person to leave, and the true example of leading by example. He would never ask any of us to do something that he hasn't done or is willing to do himself. And I think that is just the peak quality of leadership, is not by telling people what to do, but by showing them that you do it as well.
So engaging them and guiding them and mentoring them. Mm-hmm. So what have you seen that is most helpful to navigate periods of rapid change or chaos? Have you been in situations that were rather chaotic? What do leaders do during those times? What do good leaders do?
I would say my career is very chaotic and it's very emotional. Working with people's finances, it's emotional for me, it's emotional for them. And so in my personal life, I like to take a step back and make sure it's organized. So simple things like making my bed at the beginning of the day and meal prepping and all of that stuff helps me navigate chaos when it comes to the workplace. Feeling like I have a routine is really good for me. But I would say in leaders, they always have an opening ear when it comes to navigating chaos. They want to take input from their peers, their colleagues, and make sure that they are able to weather storms. So kind of just by having that organization in your life as well as that communication.
How have you handled conflict? How do you see a good leader handling conflict? You talked about them being open, paying attention. How do they handle conflict?
I think there are a lot of approaches to conflict, and obviously it depends a lot about what the conflict is. One thing that I've found is, especially in the workplace, a lot of people don't want to feel like a tattletale or that they are the ones that are in charge of addressing it. And so giving people a good outlet that maybe isn't going directly to, let's say in school, directly to the teacher, or in work directly to the boss, and allowing people to have constructive conversations that might not make them feel too outed.
Do you agree that communication is very important? And especially when you're trying to resolve complex problems?
Yeah.
Have you seen a leader do anything extraordinary when they were trying to resolve complex problems and reaching a consensus?
Yeah, I would say at the beginning of that question, when you're working in finance and doing financial advising, a lot of people are coming to you with problems that they have with money or problems that they want to solve in their finances. And so being able to make sure you're showing up to meetings on time, communicating with them fairly, explaining, educating them, not just telling them what to do, is so communication is huge in doing all of that. But specifically for leaders, if a leader isn't able to communicate what they want, it sets unfair expectations. And so if someone wants a job done in a certain way, that needs to be communicated to employees, students, whoever you're explaining it to. And without that communication, things just don't get done the correct way.
Good point. When we have to implement organizational change, what difficulties do you see, and how do you think leaders need to overcome that?
Do you say what was the first part of that question?
Implementing organizational change.
Organizational change is something that needs to be carefully considered, because sometimes when you're looking at a problem, like we talked about complex problems, there are a lot of different ways to navigate it. And so we want to make sure that we're looking from all angles, and that goes back to talking with people from different backgrounds, talking to everyone within the organization, because simple changes might have a very large impact. So by taking time and not rushing into any of those big changes, you want to make sure that people are on board and able to ease into it.
Do you agree that you have to make sure that you get everybody on board with the change and that they are willing and ready to help? Isn't that important?
I say maybe not everyone on board, because there's some people that are just never going to be able to be all on board, and that's part of the downside of what can come when you're working with a diverse group. However, I believe real leaders and change makers are able to adapt to the change that's before them, and that's what sets them apart from the crowd.
That's important, isn't it? Because not everybody is going to buy into it. And we have to look at it and we have to say, wait a minute, how do we still make it work?
Yeah, and it's not bulldozing those people that don't agree. It's not if you don't agree, you're either in or out. However, you can't stay stagnant just because some people want things to stay the way they always are, because that's just not how life works. Things are always changing, and as we grow, we're constantly evolving as humans. Business practices need to grow to fit consumers, all of the things, and so just making sure that you're not bulldozing the people, but you're still listening to what they say, but at the same time, you're not staying stagnant just because one person refuses to grow.
Very good point. When we start looking at strategic planning, what role do you think innovation plays? Do you think it's important?
Innovation is huge. With strategic planning, you're looking at how the world around you is changing and how we can adapt to it while staying true to who we are as a company, who you are as a person, as a teacher, whoever it is. And so I would say adapting to the life around us. We've seen a lot with technology recently. That's the biggest example of innovation, and making sure we are strategically moving forward with technology to be the best for our consumers, as well as the best company we can be.
Very important, especially in this day and age. When we start looking at culture of an organization, do you think creative thinking and problem solving should be something that is part of the culture?
I definitely think that. I think back to staying stagnant, if you don't have people that are creative and wanting to think of new ideas and better ways of doing things, you won't move forward into the next age, into the next century, into just the next way of business. And so being able to be creative and have that person in the room that's just, their brain is always popping with ideas. If you have a room full of creative people, the growth potential for your business or your team is unimaginable.
Good point. Managing conflict has become quite a bit of a problem, hasn't it, in this day and age? In very diverse settings, it becomes very difficult to communicate. What do you think some of the things are that we need to be careful about to create a dialogue, to open up constructive conflict?
I would say in order to have constructive dialect within a room, you need to have an environment where it's honestly like no ideas are stupid, you know? Bring your wildest idea, let's brainstorm about it. If someone disagrees with your idea, that's not an attack on you personally, it's just constructive criticism. So just because we don't agree doesn't mean that I don't like you as a person. And I think that's kind of where managing conflict has changed a lot, is because people just aren't as good at taking criticism. And so if you're going to want someone to take criticism, you also need to look internally and be able to take criticism yourself too. And if you can be in a room where people are able to hear what you're saying and not think that there's an ulterior motive behind it, conflict will be a lot easier.
And a way of doing that is what you said, accepting responsibility for our thoughts and practices as well. And knowing that sometimes either person isn't exactly right, but we need to exchange ideas and come up with a better solution.
Exactly.
And that's what innovation is all about, isn't it? And creative conflict.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So in the end, what would you tell us about your thoughts about what good leaders can do for the future to manage conflict, to look through the various lenses that they have to over the next decade or so? What will make them be better leaders and help their companies be more innovative?
I think it boils down to your actions, your words, and your intentions behind them. And so leaders don't tell you to do something because they want to. They tell you to do something to make you better. And so in our world, there's always going to be leaders and there's going to be people under the leaders, but that's not a bad thing. There are people that are natural born leaders and people naturally flock to them, but that doesn't mean if you're a natural born leader, you can't continue to grow. And as a natural born leader, I want to continue to foster an environment where I'm boosting up other leaders and I'm making people around me always feel heard and seen.
And in the end, with being part of the newest generation at work right now, what do you see are some of the challenges you face with the multiple generations at work?
Yeah, I would say it's a difference between generations as well as genders. And I don't think it's a bad thing to be one of the few women at work. I personally like it. However, I do want to foster an environment that allows for new women to come in and for me to show them the ropes. And with the newer interns, so we just got our summer interns. They started 2 weeks ago, and I was a summer intern last year. And so I'm maybe a year, 2 years older than them. However, they are coming to me for help, and it kind of has shown me a new path for me. And I've talked to my managing director, and hopefully within the next year or two, I will move into a leadership role on top of my advising role and help with the summer interns and help people see different career paths. But also I think for these interns, even if they don't decide to stick with our company, being able to show them all the qualities that they can learn about public speaking, about asking people questions and networking and learning computer systems and all of that stuff. With the age gap, there is a certain, I would say there's a bit of a discrepancy in people understanding where you are in life and your ambitions, because life is just different from how it was when they were my age. And so feeling like some people just want to be 100% all about work and that's all they want to be about, and me wanting to learn how to have a good work-life balance. And so when I'm in the office and when it's work hours, I am hustling and I'm doing the best I can, but when I walk out the doors, I want to be able to enjoy my life. And that's something that is a little bit different between generations, I would say, as well as having families and the different impacts that come when you have a family versus me being a single 22-year-old individual. I don't have as many outside of responsibilities. And so there's a lot of similarities, I would say, and a lot of, when we talk about a good leader, a leader is someone who will meet you where you are, you know? And so they see you're a 22-year-old, you have so much life ahead of you. I want to show you, if you want to have a good work-life balance, let me show you how to do that. And let me help foster that environment for you here. And so if you're surrounded with good leaders in the workplace, they're going to find you where you are and say, let's figure out what your goals are with this job and let me help you get there. And so that's what I have found.
Excellent point. Leaders need to meet you where they are, where you are, and understand where you are and what will motivate you and what will ignite the fire in you to be the employee that you need to be.
Yeah, I actually have a good example of it. So my managing director was kind of noticing that I needed a little bit more structure in financial advising. I'm building my own practice. And so at the end of the day, it's up to me what I do and how productive I am. And he noticed that I was struggling a little bit without the structure, especially had just coming out of having been in school my entire life. I've always had a syllabus to follow and deadlines. And so he helped me kind of build more of a structure in a structureless career where I meet with him once a week to go over my goals for the following week and almost created, I guess, a syllabus or a quarterly report, as you will. And we actually call it the 12-week year. It's a book. So essentially it takes the entire year and saying, in terms of productivity, how many people January 1st are setting a New Year's resolution saying, I'm going to lose 15 pounds by 2026. And they never end up doing it because the year is so long. And so you lose sight of the goal. So 12-week year basically says, my goal over the next year is to lose 20 pounds. So I'm going to lose 5 pounds this in the next 3 months. And it breaks down our goals in our job. And so I can break down how many people I want to meet with and what types of meetings I want to have. And so in that 12 weeks, I do my productivity, and then when it all stacks up, you end up meeting your goals by the end of the year. And so that's something that he has helped bring into our office specifically to give people a little bit more structure in their goals, and has helped me a lot breaking it into the quarterly system that I'm so used to. And so to me, that's the perfect example of what a leader is. He saw where I needed some structure and realized there's probably some other people that could also use this in this career. And now we just had our meeting last Friday. Every 3 months we meet as a team, go through what the last 12 weeks looked like, and we plan out the next 12 weeks. And that has provided me more structure and kind of fostered an environment that shows like, hey, we're here, we care, and we want you to succeed, not because it's going to make us succeed, but because we want to see you succeed.
Mia, I can't thank you enough for coming today. It's been a great conversation with you, and I thank you and I wish you the very best.
Of course, I was so happy to come today, and I think seeing what you have fostered here at Regis University and the classes that you teach and the students that you inspire, it's so motivating, and it is motivating to women out there just to say, like, you can do so many things in the workplace, you can have a family, you can do it all if you really strive for it. So thank you.
Thank you. You know, it was really interesting when we interviewed Mia Clark, who's an alumni of Regis College. She's new to the business world, but she outlined some very important points about how leaders can engage the newer generations at work, which is really important. One of the clear things that she said is that leaders need to set clear expectations and communicate with their teams. The teams need to know what is expected of them.
I really appreciated how she spoke about how leadership boils down to actions, words, and the leader's true intention, which is to help their teams get better at what they do.
You know, again, something that keeps coming up, change. Nobody likes it. And you need to involve all the stakeholders so that they understand the impact of the change. And she made that real clear too. And I think it's interesting that the younger generations see that and they understand the importance of it. But they know that there's the right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And people need to understand what's going to happen and how's this going to affect my job.
You know, Mia seemed very proud to be a woman in finance. She talked about how good leaders surround themselves with diverse, creative, and qualified people. Really the key to success and innovation. This is something that I think human resources can also help with, hiring, making sure to have a good, diverse team. Well, that's all we have today. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to join us next time on
The Leadership Lens.